Hey, Internet, welcome to the Nights of the Drunk Watch. We just finished watching Westworld, Season 3, Episode 3, entitled Winterline?
Sure.
I feel like...
No, I thought that was the last episode.
I'm Zach.
I don't know.
I'm
I'm Andrew. We are the Knights of the Drunk Watch.
And
now our talk
begins.
With zero lag whatsoever.
So, how about that Hail episode? What?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, that one thing that the Hail episode taught me, though, was to take a step back and stop making so many assumptions.
Yeah. So, I guess the first thing we have to talk about is Dolores brings back Hale's body, the form of Hale, and puts her back into her position at Delos.
As Zach was saying, Dolores' plan is coming into motion by planting her puppet Hale, who we don't drive in.
That's good. Puppet Hale.
In the driver's seat at Delos, as it were.
Puppet Hail.
Puppet Hale.
Because they even talk about, like, you know who you are, but do you know who you're supposed to be right now?
Right.
And so they kind of make that difference of, like, whoever your ball is, that's not who you are right now. You're Hale.
Now, so
you are not your ball.
Can I talk about my theory on this now?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I was really trying to study her relationship with Puppet Hale, and the only person I think she spent enough time with who is a killer instinct that she would have any understanding of is Logan. Because he would know how Delos works. He wouldn't know that Hale was working for the enemy, so to speak. So he would be able to go in and at least pretend to be in charge. I don't know. I'm throwing that and that's all based.
This is thinking faces.
No, well, okay.
Yeah.
And to Andrew's point, he was saying he thinks it's Logan. I was going to say I was getting Abernathy vibes off of it, especially what happened where Puppet Hale had to step in as a parent for Charlotte's son, Nathan, and fend him off from a terrible pedophile named Thomas. Fuck you, HBO, ruining my fucking name in two separate series. But it felt like parental coding or whatever program.
I would agree with that as well.
So my prediction, which is going to be way out there, I'm sure. One is that it's William, because we know William is at some point in the series.
We're getting at
a host. Right. So we know William's mind is somewhere out there. It's possible that she extracted him and brought him with her. Possible. My other possible idea is that Dolores actually split herself in half, just like Bernard did.
Horcrux?
Yeah, and so I think just a binary feel of the season so far, good and bad, light and dark. I think she may have put...
I think Dolores is very singular. Yeah, I think she's whole and singular.
It was the line, "No one knows me as well as you do." And then the fetal position, how Dolores was Hale was in the fetal position, meant she was in the fetal position.
I can see that.
But and the whole self-harm thing that the puppet Charlotte was going through, I couldn't understand if she was doing that because Dolores had read Charlotte's book when she was in the Forge or the Cradle or whatever it was. So she took that innate knowledge of Charlotte Hale and gave it to this host who's impersonating her. And either that was trying to overtake the host, that's why she was trying to cut it out of herself, I think is what she said. Or if that was the inner host itself trying to, get itself to come out.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I would say is what she was cutting into herself was a pattern. So I think that circle with the line, that looked a lot actually like what the little insight thing does.
The anomalies it's following, right?
So,
I caught that too.
I think there's a connection there that we can't fully see yet.
Well, she said that it feels like she's trying to rip herself out.
Mm-hmm.
Hale, like actual Hale.
And that's what I thought it was. I thought Dolores took her book at some point and put it into this thing so it could be as real as it possibly could, but it only had the information that was collected when the original Hale was in Westworld.
Well,
Hale's trying to make best use of it.
And I do like the little detail of, they're not one-to-one copies. So Dolores can't just kidnap a human and then one-to-one copy them.
No.
Because,
Are you
even
talking
Puppet
about like with the guard or the
security chief?
She just can't scan one person and then copy them, because there's things people know, like Hale. It's not a good shtick. It's not perfect. Like, there's definite holes in it.
Well, and I mean that kind of makes sense, because if like in your book Hale never sang a lullaby because you only experienced Hale on the island, not Hale with her child,
right?
And you wouldn't have the information,
right?
You wouldn't have any of that. That would only be in Hale's mind.
Well, it was a password, and we found out at the end of the episode she's working for Shiraz, and.
Well, we always knew since season 1 that was Charlotte. Hale was doing that, in charge of that.
But we didn't know who for.
We thought she was doing it for the board, so the board
Yeah.
could take over Ford's information. Turns out she was doing it for Sirach.
Zach?
I'll make a prediction.
Jello shots?
Sirach is not real. 10 Jello shots.
I'm putting it in.
10 Jello shots. Sirach is not real. Sirach is the Bahaba Dabba Dabba.
Sirach is the inside egg.
Is the inside mind, like personified.
Oh, because when Hale did go to see him, she had to put on the glasses.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't there.
Because I'll also make a prediction that Maeve did not escape. Maeve is just in a separate file.
She hasn't been put into a host body yet. When Sirach had her for dinner, if what Zach is saying is correct, he just put her into another part of his mainframe, and that's why he was able to stop her.
He's in a simulation inside of she's inside of a simulation inside of a simulation. But we've also seen those buttons. Bernard's kind of using one. It could just as easily be, if you will, real world.
Yes.
That, he, like he said, he protected himself, and he made sure he would take, every precaution against her, because he knows how tenacious.
Yeah, see, and I would argue with that when he created a body, like when he stopped Maeve, he stopped the body. He didn't stop her.
He put a kill switch.
Yes, because he had control over the body because he made it. Talk about Caleb now.
Or Cow.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
You're ridiculous. Just because he called him Cal for short because he's a dick doesn't mean he's a different person.
This goes back.
Oh, one of the kidnappers?
This goes back.
Yeah.
His mom said it too, I think, at one point.
This goes back to my theory of the binary, of black and white and good and bad.
Oh, I don't think I was going along with that. But I really do think that we are getting more proof that he is a host, because in the same way that Puppet Hale's son was like, I want my real mommy back, she is saying, you're not my real son. And she even we get, I think this episode was meant to tell us that is more than dementia, because last week it was a blow off, oh, she's dementia.
You're not my son. Yeah.
She's not my son, whatever. But this week we get a full scene of Hale's son saying, you're doing it wrong, you're not her, I don't all this, he says that multiple times, and then he says, I want my real mom back. And then I'm pretty sure Caleb's mom says, you're not my son, you're not my real son. I feel like she mimicked his words so clearly that the twist is going to be
something
that. But again, I believe Caleb is a real person,
but she's
even if
also
Dolores
got Google
doesn't
in her
know
head.
it, because it would be kind of silly for. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of red herrings, and we're expecting a lot of the same tropes from the last few seasons. And again, like Andrew, I think we all need to remain more open to the series, and let them bring Big Love and the Leftovers into this world as well too.
Yeah, I jumped on that symbology of him waking up and the sun moving across, just like Dolores.
Right.
Oh, that's a hint that he's a host. Then of course stepping back, I realized that could also be saying that humans have their own loops.
No, they do.
And so showing him with the symbology of Dolores's day, but in a human has a loop just as much as a host. But I think Dolores knew everything she knew about Caleb because of insight.
We've established that's happened, and that could easily be how Dolores has access to it. But that scene in the diner between Dolores and Caleb, where she was telling him all about it, reminded me of the scene where I think it was Lutz or Sylvester, I can't remember the name of the tech, was telling Maeve, "You're programmed to say everything," and then puts the tablet in her hands, and she's like, "That's not right." And I was expecting something like that, but I believe Andrew's right. It was just drawing a parallel between these are both people who are stuck in a world that they didn't create, that they were just born into, and they are trapped in their own world, which we find out later. That's what Dolores was telling Caleb Rehoboam does. You are basically quantified, and you are kept in your place in what the system deems as the best possible path for you. Loop, path, whatever they wanted to call it in this season. And it's very true about humans in this world, just as it was hosts in Westworld.
So I guess the last thing we haven't really talked about is, what is Sirach up to?
Again, that'll be one of the bigger overarching mysteries of the season. But again, even when they blow the lid off of that, it'll just open it up for more questions, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And what if it were Ford making one last attempt from the grave? He set up Sirach as a host to do this outside of the park, et cetera, et cetera. He's combined him with, Ford actually got it right. The fidelity, he nailed it the second or third time. And Ford still has machinations out.
Is that everything?
I think we did.
All right. I think it's everything.
All right. Hope this recorded.
So we're the Knights of the Drunk Watch.
And now
our talk has ended.
Good night, everybody.